Okay, I'm gonna do a cold start, see if we can hear that noise. It's on our Lincoln Navigator 2004. It's got the Triton 5.4 4 valve. Does not have the variable valve timing. Hear it a little bit from here. All right, another beautiful, crisp morning, and we finally got the Lincoln in the shop. So, what are we doing with the Lincoln? It's got the dreaded timing chain noise on startup. So, we wanted to get this in here before any more damage or problems occurs from it. I don't want it wearing away at the front cover, sending aluminum through the motor, creating oil pressure problems to the passenger side bank, all the things that come with it. Now, this is a 2005 Navigator with the 5.4 liter, but this is actually the 4 valve, which has been the more reliable version. It didn't suffer the spark plug issue as much. It didn't suffer the timing issue, really. It was one of the more reliable ones, so I'm really surprised. And this thing started making noise right around 95,000 miles. I think we're right around 105 right now. So just gathering up the parts and getting the tow rig set up so we have a backup vehicle to drive while this one's tore down. So I got all the parts I think I need. Never know once you tear into it and find other things. Now, I'm also going to be changing out the idle air control valve because this thing smells like raw fuel when you start it. And it idles when it's a cold start. It smells like pure fuel coming out of the tailpipe. And then when you, after it's been warming up and you've been driving it, and you pull up to like a stoplight or go through a drive-through, the RPM sits there and fluctuates about 200 RPMs, just almost like a vacuum leak. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that. But yeah, just real uneven throttle or idle. So while we're in there, we're gonna change that out. I have a new one and a new gasket. We'll be putting new tensioners, new guides. So, all right, without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so just to show you what I'm doing to start off, I always like to get the easy stuff out of the way, whether it needs to be removed or not. I've never done this before, and what I find is if I give myself more room by removing stuff like the battery, intake obviously does have to come out. Might look at seeing how hard it is to pull this box out. We got lots of room because we do have to get to these valve covers. And you see there's a lot of crap we got to move out of the way. And then obviously we got to pull the shroud off, remove the fan. This shroud, there's 2 bolts that hold it on. Right there's one in the middle of the screen. And on the other side is right there in the middle. So that, and then there's the clip. So once you take those 2 bolts out, this should lift up. I went ahead and stuffed some rags in it. Throttle body's closed, but no big deal. Just an extra precaution. And then this is your idle air control valve. I shouldn't have taken anything off on the intake, but maybe disconnect some wires. But the intake should stay on there. I won't change this out until the end. Let's continue. I think next, pull the shroud and maybe look at taking that box off. So we'll get the box, the shroud. Okay, so I got the air filter housing removed. Went ahead and pulled the power steering reservoir, laid it over to the side. Got to pull this bracket off. There's a number 10 there, and then 2 number 10s down here, and that should come off. Got the fan broke loose, and we're draining the coolant. So it's almost done draining. Then I can take that upper radiator hose off and keep going at it. I'd give you guys an update. You can see got our parts removed so far. Kind of got everything off on both valve covers. Got the shroud fan open. Pulled the coils, disconnected them. Make sure this wire is loose. One thing that concerns me is that EGR pipe in the back. I sprayed some WD-40 on it. We'll probably spray it again while I'm taking the front off. Here's I went ahead and removed the engine control module or PCM. Disconnected some vacuum lines, moved stuff out. Disconnected the PCV valve, put the PCV valve back in just to keep stuff out. I blew it out with air, spark plug holes on both sides, compressed air, and around the valve cover itself. So hopefully we can limit how much gets dropped in there. And then the front. So I think what's next is take the belt off, and then remove the tensioner, the pulleys, and everything else. Everything down to the dampener. So we'll get what we have to, and then go from there. I think we have to just take off the power steering pump, if I remember right, and lay it off to the side because it bolts to the cover. I have to look at the air conditioning pump. Power steering pump, air conditioning pump. Shouldn't have to mess with the alternator. Don't know about the water pump. So once we get I'll pull the pulley off so it gives us more room and see what's there. One thing I did find on my vacuum lines, what did I do with it? Here it is. See if I can get out some better light. This is all degraded and rotten. So I'm gonna look for some replacement line. Won't be long before that breaks and starts leaking. So who knows, it might be allowing air to suck through now. So we'll get that replaced. It's only like literally like 1.5 inches. So hopefully we can find that fairly easy. All right, so we are going to get back to this. like I said, I'm gonna start pulling stuff off the front now. That's it. All right, so I'm gonna get back started on the Lincoln. We got delayed yesterday. Didn't get anything done. We had some people coming by for different things. So kind of pick up where we left off. See all the parts we pulled off so far. We got everything pulled off the front, including the dampener, all the pulleys. So we're ready to pull the front cover. I removed the crankshaft position sensor. I do have to take the bottom bolts out from the O-pan to the front cover, and probably the power steering pump. But what I was working on right now was the valve covers. These two AC lines back here are in the way. You can disconnect them, recover your AC, disconnect it, but I'm kind of trying to prevent from having to do that. I don't feel like doing it right now. And then because with that in mind, we have this EGR pipe that goes across the back here. So you can see right there. That's the EGR pipe. This is only like a half-inch space. It's not enough to lift up the valve cover. I disconnected the pipe from the manifold. Let's see if we can find a light. See that pipe right down there? I disconnected that, but there's not any free movement in the pipe, so it didn't really do me any good. So it goes up behind this intake manifold. I can't get to that. So I decided I'm taking the intake manifold off. Well, before I started that, I got online local parts stores, and O'Reilly said that they could have it today by 2:30. And the whole gasket kit for the intake, there's half a dozen gaskets that are involved in this intake. So this is a 2004 5.4 4 valve. So I have not found a video on anybody doing it on the 4 valve. I don't know, you may be able to do this without pulling the intake, but I don't want to try to break the EGR pipe or anything like that. So my plan's to remove this intake. So about $100 worth of gaskets just to do the intake manifold. And I'm just doing the top section, not the lower intake, unless I have to, but at this point, just the top. So what I did is I had to take the push pins out on this windshield wiper firewall cowling, and then pop it loose so I could get this plastic molding that goes over the wiring harness there. You have to remove this in order to lift up this intake. So this intake piece here fits across the back here. There's 6 bolts that hold it on. Its own gaskets, which come in the gasket kit. So you take this piece off, and that allows you to get to the rear intake manifold bolts. So that's what I'm gonna do this morning. And we'll pull the rest of this intake off and kind of go by there. So stay tuned. All right, we got this beast of an intake manifold off. So, you see the EGR pipe right there. So I guess if I could have gotten back here, I didn't have any tools that would let me get back there. Once you take this bridge off here, there's 6 bolts. Pull that off. It allows you access back here. You don't have to worry about these for the EGR valve. But so you'll have 4 more bolts to take out. 1 here, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. So these 2 were tricky. This is the passenger side. I broke it loose. I'll show you the wrench I used for all these. They're number 10 bolts. But I broke it loose right here and did a couple turns where I felt loose. Then I was able to reach around and take it out from the side. This one I was able to do with just the fingertips, loosen it off. These are by far the hardest ones. So you got total bolts. You have these two, that's 4. You have a 5th one, sorry, right by this coolant pipe. You can see it right there. So there's 5 bolts. And then 6, and where you at? 7. So there, actually here. So 8 bolts to hold this on. Not counting the 6 bolts to hold the bridge on. 6 bolts actually hold it on to your lower intake manifold. It's kind of interesting. Well, yeah, that's it. Big void underneath the valley. So I'm gonna just stuff some rags in these so I don't accidentally drop something down. I should be able to lift this driver's side valve cover off real easy. And I'm hoping to get this passenger side off now with the intake manifold out of the way without having to mess with my air conditioning line. So to me, so far, we'll find out here once I try to get the valve covers off. But this is probably the easiest way. If you guys know of a better way, put it in comments below, help somebody out. Like I said, this is the first time I've done it. I know one guy talks about doing it to a 4 valve in a Lincoln, but he doesn't really explain how he gets the valve covers off. So this, I know the 3 valves have a plastic intake manifold, I believe, and it's not so ridiculously large. So you kind of see how this bubbles out. But all right, now hopefully I'll plug these holes and see if we can get these valve covers off. Here's the lower intake manifold, or the middle intake manifold gasket. You could probably reuse these, but I'm not going to go through all this work and then find out I got an oil leak or a intake leak. So there's a kit. It comes with, I believe it comes with your lower plenum intake manifold bolts, this one, plus these 2, bam, bam, and it might even do a throttle bottle gasket, an EGR gasket. I'll let you know once I get here. I believe it's a Felpro kit. So that's the piece here. I used a 1.25 inch wrench, and I jacked up my driver's side. Then I dropped my fender liner down, but you got to have it jacked up, and then you can get into it from the fender well. I'll show you the wrench I used. It was this one. These are my dad's tools. Come on, focus. 1.25 inch. This is my dad's tools when he was heavy equipment mechanic. So he gave them to me a long time ago, and they'll be passed down to my kids. All right, let's continue on this. I'm excited. I want to really get the timing cover off, the front cover off, and see if there's any other damage. If I got to order any other parts, I need to get them ordered because we need this car up and running. All right, let me plug these holes. Move on to the valve covers. Definitely driver's side wasn't too bad at all. And the intake came off as well. Looks fairly clean in there. You can tell oil changes were kept up to date. I don't even really see tarnish, that much tarnish on there. I know my dad was running the Motorcraft synthetic blend. So I don't see any scarring or wear on the camshafts. That's what I was worried about. Looks pretty good. This upper chain, so you can see this has 4 chains, 2 little ones that tie the overhead cams together, and then the 2 chains that go down to the crankshaft. So yeah, interesting, huh? So we got that off without disconnecting the air conditioning. Now I'm gonna put some towels over top, try to keep debris down to a minimum on the valve cover or on the camshafts. We'll start taking off this front cover. That didn't come out as planned. There we go. I think our seal is holding it. There we go. And now the rubber gasket. So a good sign. We don't have any wear. If the chain was slapping the front cover, she looks good. Promising. And then we got our chains down there. She looks pretty good. This, oh yeah, see, this is what we're doing. This tensioner feels tight. I can't compress it at all. With this one, you can see. So it's the driver's side tensioner that failed. The sad thing is they never fixed it. And then every year this Triton 5.4, whether it was a 2 valve, well, the 3 valve and the 4 valve. The 2 valve they didn't have near as problems from what I understand. Here's our chains. This has a tensioner up here and guides, but these are pretty tight. All right, we pulled the driver's side tensioner off and we found the culprit. An old Triton motor Achilles heel. You can see how it just blew that seal out. All this work because of that seal. You'd think Ford would have done a little better job. It was crazy. All right, we'll continue. We'll pull the rest of the timing components off up here, and then all right, it's another morning, new morning. Pretty much yesterday we were able to get everything tore down, inspected, find out what the problem was. You can see, just put some towels over the camshafts. So this is, I'll take you over and show you the parts, but this is a good example of as soon as you hear that noise on startup, cold start, address it. Don't let it go for too long, because you will have more problems and more work involved. Our camshafts are nice and clean. There's no scoring. There's good quality oil used in it. We don't have any wear on the block from where the chain was slapping, and nothing on the timing cover. I'll take you over here and show you the cover. So there's no signs of chain wearing. This is just me smudging it with my glove. That's up on the top anyway, so our chain wear would be down around in this area. So that's good. See our guides, they're good. There's our other one. But the culprit to all this is our driver's side tensioner. Right there. The seal blew out. And that gave us our rattle on cold startup, build up pressure. So again, we noticed this around 95, 100,000 miles. I'm not familiar with the Triton motors, so I started doing some research, found out it was a tensioner issue. So got the parts all on order, got us back a vehicle, and we tore it down. If we waited much longer, could it be damage to the front cover, damage to the block? Most likely not the block. It's a little stronger than the rest of it, but we'll say damage to the front cover, metal cuttings through the motor, which is never good, damage to the camshafts, worst case, wear to the bearings, journal bearings, and broken guides, and that may require us to drop the oil pan. Fortunately, we got lucky, and that's not the issue. So, but that's going to be it for this video. Stay tuned for the next video where we put it all back together. Thanks for watching.